The Association on American Indian Affairs is the oldest national Native nonprofit, protecting sovereignty, preserving culture, educating youth, and building capacity. For more than a century, we've worked to shift federal policy from assimilation and termination to sovereignty and self-determination. Our mission is to lead the grassroots fight to protect Native cultural sovereignty through our core initiatives: cultural sovereignty, next generations, and become an ally. We empower Native peoples to reclaim and protect what defines us, our stories, our lands, and our rights, while fostering understanding, healing, and true allyship. Together, we're building a more equitable and accountable world for all.
Nagad. Hello, everyone. I'm so happy and thankful you're joining us for the 4th Annual Tribal Museums Day. My name is Trista Vaughn. I'm a citizen of the United Keetoowah Band of Cherokee Indians in Oklahoma. I'm also the Communications Associate for Association on American Indian Affairs. So today is Tribal Museum Day, and the significance of this started back on December 3rd, 2022, where during our centennial year, we wanted to honor tribal museums that are everywhere. And one of our ways association has worked tirelessly to create a space where Native cultures and values are protected, lived, and respected. And here next to me is my amazing grandma, Cindy Hare. And a little fun fact about my grandma, Cindy Hare, is that she was the first Keetoowah tradition keeper back in 2005 and also is a fluent Cherokee speaker. Mm-hmm. And so, Grandma, I'll let you take it in with the blessing. Okay.
Idadano listo. Ogi do kalande he, iseli lichis kopi. Kalde kaya wili hisingat smi. Ada iseli lichis ku order I te kosnala do kiyeje. Ada te he kan op die do hestio ni ka do fog. Squeeze nun dan. When we have this on and ni ka do fog yes. Te he kan op die do hestio. Ada ni ko gami Alay kalina darling. That they go where these, alay ade maxi, the hick country, the west to win. Ogi dokulan the hin of Shaheshin done any darling. Ogi dokulan the councils, the histel, he the west to. Junior still thing, because young. Junior still few, our duty, excuse, don't need to yoki coast knowledge, like I say it is. Ogi dogalan de he, there's those sense of he, cast he still. Sakilo, Kayogi still. Neither those two, neither the donkey, neither the walk Johnny, means a way. Neither the walk is the waste is the excuse, I will hear a legally at least. I should say, like you want is successful. Skip on the yet, and they can do walk if she like me one east. Okay, dog land the handy, there's those two, each lady say, hope so here is. You know, we do release again huge. He's still hit up his school. I let Ernestine school, he's still hit the west. I let the gods, you know, Stony, the Hicks not eat the west, the Mogi dog land the heat. Done up to lead on my horse. No, they guessed me. Ogi dokalan te hindi desi dostun because te gaya hussein. Te hikana di do hestu ndi kade pogi. Desi do one kadi. Amen.
Well done. Thank you, Grandma, so much. That was awesome. So good. Now I'm going to throw it back to Kay, who's my fabulous co-host today. Wait. Let's see.
We seem to be having some technical issues. If you give us just a minute, we're going to have Kay reboot and come back on so she can give an introduction. It looks like her video wasn't working. So, Keetoowah, are you there? If you could come back and talk a little bit about Tribal Museums Day, we'd appreciate it. All right, we're still having a few technical difficulties. Keetoowah Museum, come on back and talk to us a little bit about Tribal Museums Day.
Sianagad. Hello, everyone. We are currently here in Tahlequah, Oklahoma, where Ernestine Berry has made a career in preserving the Keetoowah history. And I think it's so phenomenal to be here because when you're here in this space, you really get to see the journey of Keetoowahs, where we started in Turkey, North Carolina, making our way through Arkansas Territory, then moving towards Indian Territory, what is now Oklahoma, and Ernestine, just a researcher, a teacher, an advocate for preserving Keetoowah culture. So excited to introduce this phenomenal woman, Ernestine Berry. I'll let you take it away.
All right, thank you, Trista. Go back and live up to that introduction. But anyway, yes, we are here in the John Hare Museum of the United Keetoowah Band. And our goal here is to acquaint people with the Keetoowahs and to provide the history, to give some other information about who we are, where we've been, what we've come through, and even our language. We try to emphasize our language. We've had our language team that is engaged in creating language lessons so that people who want to learn can learn the language. It's a difficult language. And I've been told that over and over, this is very difficult, but it's not impossible. So we can teach it and we can learn it. Here in the gift shop is where we are now. We have a number of items here, quite a number of items here that we have acquired from our Keetoowah members. All of this stuff that we have here is made by our members. And sometimes we have people come in here and say, is this all native made? We said, yes, it is. They said, oh, well, thank goodness. We just came from another place and they had lots of Chinese made stuff. So we're glad that this is really authentic. And I said, yes, all of our stuff is authentically made by our people. And we do this, we started this gift shop shortly after we opened the museum in 2011. And we started the gift shop because we have quite a few people who are artists and craftspeople. And so they needed an outlet for their work. So we started the gift shop and it has done very well. When we first started, we had very little inventory. We also had very little money, and which is kind of a perennial problem, I guess, with a lot of tribes. But we have a lot of handmade things here that have come to us, and we've been able over the years kind of increase our ability to buy the products straight out. We did consignments, but we buy them from our people now and resell them. So we're very proud of our gift shop. We're very proud of our people who do all these arts and crafts. We have beadwork, we have silver work, we have moccasins, we have all kinds of beadwork. Actually, we have lots and lots of that. And we have quilts, we have paintings, even about, and the paintings that we have are of traditional Keetoowah ways. They're not just, you know, paintings of anything and everything. They're paintings of our Keetoowah people and the ways that they have lived over the past decades, or even back into the 1700s. We have some of the traditional art like that also. We are a small museum. We only have like, I think, 20,000 square feet here. We started out with about 10,000, and then in the second phase, we grew by about 100% on our floor space. So the Association of Tribal Archives, Libraries, and Museums in 2022 awarded our museum with this plaque that says we are one of the top 10 of small museums. And we're very proud of this, very proud that we were able to win an award from ATOM. And we keep this on display and very proud to have it. Okay. I want to just tell you a little bit about John Hare. He was one of our chiefs. He was about the sixth or seventh chief from the reorganization period, which we reorganized from the 1934s into 1940s. And finally, we got all of our documentation, all of our Constitution, bylaws, and federal corporate charter were approved in 1950, October 3rd, 1950. Our people ratified those documents. And a little bit of history with that is we had a vote for that ratification October 3rd, 1950. And there was 1,404 people who voted for it and one person who voted no. And I always thought that was the strangest thing, that everybody was for it except that one person. So I always wondered who that person was. And of course, we'll never know because it was, of course, secret ballot. But I think that's a very interesting thing that everybody was for it except for one person. So we became reorganized by that time. And then we began start trying to get our government back together. We had, as Trista said, we had been in the East, of course, in our group, the Western Cherokees. Now we do have some of the Cherokee Nation people who are members here, or they were traditionally Cherokee Nation, and they are members here. But most of our people at the time that we reorganized were from the Western Cherokees, and we have that word from F.J. Boudinot, Frank J. Boudinot, who was one of our attorneys at the time. And he said that mostly the Keetoowahs, because Congress asked him, who are the Keetoowahs? And we get that question all the time. Who are the Keetoowahs? Well, his answer was, well, principally they are the Western Cherokees. And so that's how we go with that attitude there, that we are the Western Cherokees. We make that claim that we're the Western Cherokees because principally we are, but we also have welcomed other people also as well. Our first chief was John Hitcher, and he was the chief during the reorganization period. Then Jim Pickup came along, and he tried to bring people together and create our base role, and that's when that happened, was when Jim Pickup was the chief. Of course, they had been gathering members for quite a period of time in the 30s and 40s, and then they made the official role. It was approved in 1940s. So we have a long history, even though we only have reorganization from 1950. We can go back to 1809, actually, when we separated from the Cherokee Nation people and became our own tribe at that time. Now, there's some that would like to argue with that, but the historical evidence would verify that. So we are just happy that we are here and happy to invite people to our gift shop. To purchase, it's almost Christmas time. We have our Christmas tree up right now, and we have a lot of Christmas gifts. We even have a number of Keetoowah authors, and we have their books here in the gift shop. So whatever you're interested in, if it has to do with Keetoowah, you'll probably find some of it right here. And we have one of our guys who is a country singer. And we have some of his stuff here. We have his CDs, and we have some of his T-shirts and that sort of thing. And in case you're a fan. So we have really a variety of things, and whenever it comes to shopping, if you're here in the area, come in. We'll be glad to wait on you and be glad for you to have something that's authentically made by our people. Okay.
So,
Okay. Um, Again, welcome to our gallery here where we have our language. We wanted to try to collect a lot of our documents that were written in a syllabary because we were told over and over, we've heard this in the community, well, the Keetoowahs have no documentation. And so we went out to a lot of places, such as the Oklahoma University, the Tulsa University. We knew that they had syllabary documents, and we went to the National Archive. We went to Newberry Library in Chicago, and the archive in Washington, D.C. We also got documents from the archive at Kansas. So we have quite a collection of syllabary documents. And the reason why, I think, one of the reasons why we don't have so much history of the Keetoowahs in the history books is because our history was written in syllabary. And how many historians do you know that read and write in syllabary? Well, we don't know anybody, zero. So that's why we have very little written about. We do have a book that was written by Georgia Leeds. It's a history of the United Keetoowah Band from 1950 forward. And we have another history, which is a legal history that was written by one of our attorneys who is also a Keetoowah, Al Logan Slagle, who wrote The Burning Phoenix. And there's so much information there in that book. His sister Brenda just recently had it published in book form. We had the manuscript for years and years. We had the manuscript, and it was just recently published in book form. And so we have that here at the museum. And if anybody wants to know, we can sell them a book and they can learn about the Keetoowah history. So we're just really proud that we have finally gotten some history actually published. And so, and we're still trying to do this. We're still trying to publish things my sister has written. She's kind of a legal beagle. She loves all that legal stuff, which I'm not into, but she loves that stuff. And so she has done a lot of legal research. She has written a paper also that we're going to publish. And so she's just really wild and crazy about the legal parts of our history. And so I say, well, let her do that. That's not something I want to do, but it's something that's necessary. So we'll be glad to get her writing published. We also have a book by Sequoyah Guest. Now, Sequoyah Guest was a descendant of Sequoyah Guest, who created syllabary, and he's written many stories, but they're written in English. And there are a lot of stories that he was told growing up, a lot of the scary stories. They used to tell a lot of scary stories. My folks used to tell a lot of scary stories. I don't know why they did that. Maybe that was a method of control for the kids or something. But anyway, we had a lot of stories that were told to us. And my great grandmother used to tell us stories also about the little people. And so we have those in our memory. And Sequoyah Guest has written a lot of them in his books. He has, I believe, 4 books that he has written. He passed away in 2019, which was a sad loss for us, but we do still have his books. So we're thankful for that. At least that part of him lives on. Okay, you can see here in this gallery how that we have a variety of papers. We have government papers. We have some letters, and they're both government letters, United Keetoowah Band government letters, and also personal letters. And these letters are from the 1930s, 1940s, and even we found two letters of my grandmother, my great-grandmother. And they were from around 1900. I'm not sure because it wasn't dated, but she talks about my grandfather and his sister, and they were still at home at that time. So I know that must have been around 1900. My grandfather was born in 1889. So it was really a wonderful thing for me to see those letters that were handwritten in the syllabary by my great-grandmother, and her name was Jenny Sawney. And so we have those as evidence of who she was and that she was Keetoowah. And also her husband, my great-grandfather, he also was Keetoowah, and my grandparents were Keetoowah. And the Keetoowahs were known during those times, even during the time of the allotment period. They were known as the full-bloods. And there was always that kind of dissension between the full-bloods and the others. And so, but during the allotment period, our people were known as the full-bloods. And even in some of the old newspaper articles that we've collected, it says Keetoowah, and down below it says the full-bloods. So we know that our people were those who were traditional, and they were the ones that came through Arkansas and then were forced on into Indian Territory in 1828. So we have also in here some of our basketry. Our baskets over here were made by Marie Proctor, and she's very old right now. Now people look at me and say, "Oh, well, you know, you look kind of old too." Well, I'm old, that's for sure. But Marie is older than I, so I could say, yeah, I'm younger than Marie. But she was excellent basket maker, excellent with the double wall baskets, just beautiful work. And all of these baskets are natural materials. A lot of times now the people use commercial reed. It comes from, I don't know where, China. But Marie always went out into the woods, collected the buckbrush, collected the honeysuckle, and made her baskets out of those natural materials, which takes a lot more time because you have to go out and collect the stuff, bring it in, boil it, strip off all of the outside of it, and strip off all the little nodules that happen to be on there, and smooth them out real good, and dye your material, and then begin to weave it. So it's a really a long drawn out process, which is the traditional way that our people have made those for many, many, probably hundreds of years. And so we're very proud to have this collection from Marie Proctor of her natural materials baskets. And these are ones that I have collected from Marie over the years, and I donated them to the museum. Okay.
Check out that part of the museum?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Let's go into the history gallery, and we'll talk just a little bit about this. Now, people often ask me, why are there two Cherokee tribes in Tahlequah? Well, there's a simple answer to that. And the answer is that during the allotment period, the Cherokee Nation government was terminated, although they came back and allowed them to keep a few things open. So they were not totally terminated, but partially terminated. And then they did not keep their government going. In effect, they abandoned their government because when I was a kid in the 1950s and 60s, you can tell how old I am, there was no Cherokee government. There was no Cherokee Nation government at all, but there was Keetoowah. And so the Keetoowahs were the ones that kept the traditions and the government and all of their things going that they had practiced as a tribe and as a people. They were keeping those things going. They didn't let them go. They were here, and they wanted to be who they were. They didn't want to be somebody else. they didn't actually, a lot of them didn't want to enter into the mainstream ways, you know, of the people who were the dominant society at that time, basically the Europeans that had come in. They did not want that. They wanted to maintain their own ways. And so they were considered to be backward and, you know, kind of not really acceptable people because they didn't want to come along and go along with the Europeans. And so we kind of got left behind. But then whenever it came time to reorganize, we were here and we wanted to reorganize. And so we did. And we were some of the first people to want to reorganize when they had a meeting at Muskogee. Of all the tribes in this area, there were the Keetoowahs. There were more of them than any other tribe that attended that meeting. And they were very gung-ho about reorganizing because they were tribal people and that's what they wanted to be. So that's why we're here today. If that had not happened, if they had not had that feeling, I hope I'm not destroying something here. If they hadn't had that feeling in their heart, then we wouldn't be here. But I'm just so thankful that my grandparents, great-grandparents, and all of your grandparents were able to, you know, keep the tribal part of our being going, that we didn't just give it up. So just so thankful for that. Okay, I'm going to just talk a little bit about the history. So if you want to say anything?
Yeah, no, I was like, I know we got just a little bit of like less than 2 minutes. Is there anything that stands out to you that you want to showcase before we?
Yes. Let's go over here to the a Civil War period. I know this is one thing that is on OETA right now, you know, is about the Civil War. And most of the time, the Indians get no credit for fighting in that war. And the Keetoowahs did not want to fight in that war. Here's our Constitution just prior to the war, our 1859 Constitution. And as you know, the war started in 1861. So they had this Constitution and they wrote it principally to keep the Keetoowahs together and keep them from killing each other during this war if they had to fight. And they said, we don't want to fight another white man's war. But they felt like they may be dragged into it just as they've been dragged into every white man's war since the, I guess, the
Kay, you seem to be experiencing some sound issues. We can't hear you at all. So while we get that up, I will just talk a little bit about Tribal Museums Day. So Tribal Museums Day happens every year on the first Saturday of December, and it's all about lifting up tribal museums and cultural centers across the country. It's not just a celebration, it's a reminder to slow down and really see the nations and cultures that make our world so rich. It's a chance to support Native artists, entrepreneurs, and Native Nation economies. It's an important opportunity for everyone to learn from the true Indigenous experts of our histories, knowledge, lifeways, and values. Tribal museums and cultural centers do so much more than hold our histories. Through special exhibits, artist demos, workshops, and community events, they keep the culture alive, sparking creativity and bringing people together. So today and every day, we encourage you to celebrate tribal museums. Check out our Tribal Museums Day webpage, link below soon, to find a museum or cultural center near you. We have an interactive map and a searchable listing on our website as well. Then plan your visit, check out the gift shop, learn something new, and support the work that they do for us. Before we move in, more into today's presentations, barring any more technical difficulties, we want to take a minute to recognize the reality that tribal museums and cultural centers are navigating right now. Besides these technical issues, across the country, these museums are rising to meet challenges that they did not create. Challenges rooted in centuries of outsiders controlling Native stories, taking sacred items, treating Indigenous cultures as objects rather than living nations. Many tribal museums are still working to bring those ancestors and belongings home, all while rebuilding narratives that were erased, plagiarized, or written by colonial voices. And many of these tribal museums and cultural centers are doing this without a lot of power and resources, and there's a disparity between them and the mainstream institutions. They often have small teams, limited funding, and collections that have endured long histories of displacement. Yet tribal museums continue to lead with strength. They're redefining what a museum can be, not places of taking, but places of return, not institutions of silence, but institutions of truth. Their exhibits, language programs, youth education, and land-based teachings are reshaping public understanding and strengthening our sovereignty every single day. Today's event is a reminder that tribal museums aren't just preserving history, they are restoring relationships, rebuilding cultural pride, protecting knowledge, and teaching new generations what it means to be connected to place, ancestors, and identity. And your presence here supports that work. When you visit a tribal museum, purchase from their gift shops or contribute to their programs. If they have a membership program, consider becoming a member of their museum. You can help meet these challenges with even more power, visibility, and momentum. So I think we're going to move into our Chickaloon village. So let me introduce them. I am not great at the pronunciations, but I am going to give it the old. Oh, we're not doing Chickaloon. Yep, we're right. We're going to MOWA. No? Let's see. Let me hear my notes here. Museum. Okay, Kay, can we hear you? Let's see. I don't think we can hear Kay. She looks a little frozen. Okay. Shannon, I can't hear you either.
We're having a lot of technical issues, and I'm really sorry, everyone. We're having audio, camera, and other things. I don't know if there's some solar flare or the aliens have landed or what has happened. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to try to do our best to get back on schedule. So thank you, everyone, for your patience. We're going to go right into some information about our upcoming repatriation conference. I want to bring Kay. Nope, Kay just left.
I'll take her spot.
Do you have the information about the repatriation conference ad? And I'll bring that ad up for us.
Great. Thank you so much. So as we celebrate Tribal Museums Day, we're reminded that these spaces do more than share history. They teach us about responsibility, relationship, and the ongoing work to protect our ancestors and cultures. Some of that work continues through one of our most important movements in Native country today, repatriation. To give you a sense of how this movement is going and how the association supports the nations in this work, we'd like to show a brief teaser about our upcoming 11th annual repatriation conference.
Repatriation is more than policy. It is a promise, a sacred responsibility to bring our ancestors home and uphold Native sovereignty. For 11 years, the Repatriation Conference has brought together Native nations, institutions, and allies committed to this movement with clarity, conviction, and collaboration. In 2026, we gather again to feed the fire that has already been lit. This year's fully virtual conference offers practical tools, hands-on training, and cultural grounding to strengthen repatriation work across nations, institutions, and allies. Sessions take place every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday throughout February, and every session will be available for replay so you can stay connected and keep learning all month long. Sponsorships are available for organizations committed to advancing repatriation, and supporting Native nations. Registration is free for Native Nation officials, representatives, and museums with small budgets, and discounted rates are available for elders and students. The fire's been ignited. Now, we feed it at the 11th Annual Repatriation Conference. Visit indian-affairs.org to learn more and register.
Hi, thank you. So the repatriation is obviously very important, and it sits at the heart of cultural sovereignty, the very work that tribal museums safeguard today. The conference brings Native nations, institutions, and allies together to carry forward this responsibility with clarity and commitment, and it offers practical tools and training to support that work all year long. So if you want to learn more, register, or explore sponsorship opportunities, everything is available on our website at indian-affairs.org. So please check that out. The conference is coming up very soon, and I think we're going to open registration next week. So I'm very excited about that. Moving on, we want to introduce Chickaloon, and I think they're also experiencing some weather. Oh, I'm sorry.
MOWA.
MOWA. Okay, sorry. Okay. Sorry. We've got a lot going on backstage, guys. Okay, we're going to introduce MOWA. I think they've got their camera issues fixed, so we're going to turn it over to you, Lily. Can we hear you? I can hear something. Lily, can you hear me?
All right, it looks like we're still having some issues. Lily, can you hear us? You're on camera. Lily, you're on camera. MOWA?
There. I'm just
MOWA, are you ready to speak?
I don't think she can hear us.
I don't think she can either. So I think we're going to need to go ahead and move forward with Chickaloon. Is Chickaloon ready? All right. I'm seeing a yes from Chickaloon.
All right. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see if we can bring them up. Hi, Chickaloon. Can you unmute so we can hear you? For some reason, we can't hear you. Oh, wait. Can you say that again?
What? Wait, Jen. Hello, everybody.
Hey! We got it. All right. I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to go down. Thank you so much.
Okay. Nihel Walkuhu, Selena Ortega Chilero, Nihel Raramuri. Hi, everybody. My name is Selena Ortega Chilero. I am Rara Rumi, also known as the Tarumamara. Museum specialist na Kayax. We live and work on Matanuska Riverland, ancestral homelands of the Atna and Dena'ina Dene here in South Central Alaska. We are calling into you from Palmer, Alaska, where we are experiencing, like some of the other places around the country, a severe weather winter storm. So we have high winds. So if you hear some creaking from the roof, we apologize. I'm the museum specialist for Chickaloon Village Traditional Council, and
I'm the Tribal Historic Preservation Officer for Chickaloon Village Traditional Council. My name is Angela Wade. Go ahead.
Okay. So basically what we wanted to do is just kind of give you a little background. Unlike some of the other folks that are going to be speaking today on this telecast, we actually don't have a brick and mortar facility. Instead, we are in pre-development for one, but we have found creative ways to continue doing museum programming in all different kinds of facets. Back in 2015, we were awarded an ANA SEDS grant to support our Nurture the Land and People project. Through this project, we were able to leverage opportunities and seek out different methods for us to further our culture and historic preservation work. As part of that, we received a lot of training from We got cultural heritage tourism training from George Washington University, interpretive guide training from the National Association of Interpretation, and then collection stewardship, digital database, and community collaboration training through the Tribal Digital Stewardship Cohort Program, supported through Washington State University's Center for Digital Scholarship and Curation. What ended up happening and kind of culminating out of the Nurture Land of People project were three really important things that have really driven our work and have since evolved into greater things. The first was we formalized our permanent collections and archives. So we now have a secure and safe space to serve as a repository for the tribe's cultural expressions, as well as creating the foundational documents, policies, procedures, and workflows to do that work. We also established an online digital database because not all of our tribal citizens live in the immediate area. The database is also a reflection of the repatriation work we do. We've been regularly, both Angie and I have been visiting repositories around the world, seeking out archival materials specifically, as well as ethnographic objects that were removed from the tribe and are housed at external repositories. What we've been doing specifically with the archival materials is getting digital surrogates, bringing them back, those back home, and then putting them on our digital database and doing community consultations with the other Atna tribes to further contextualize them and revive the stories that we thought were lost. One of the second things that we did that was really important is we developed a cultural interpretive guide training, which is why we're here, telecasting live from the Palmer Museum of History and Art here in downtown Palmer, Alaska, who is one of our cultural heritage partners. And the executive director of the Palmer Museum is here with us, Delaney Nathlich.
Hello.
Delaney she's suffering from a little bit of an ear infection from this wind, so she's not going to speak, but we wanted to make sure that we're recognizing our cultural heritage partners. We secured and have since really strong relationships with 3 cultural heritage partners in our region: Alpine Historical Society in Sutton, Alaska, the Palmer Museum of History and Art here in Palmer, and then the Wasilla Museum and Visitor Center in Wasilla, where our temporary exhibit will actually be going to next in February 3rd, 2026. Finally, the third thing that really culminated was we identified the need to have a culture facility, a brick and mortar facility. We also went through entire surveys and community consultations where we established the mission and the vision for our culture facility, as well as determined the spaces that are necessary for that space, including having a permanent collection, a permanent repository space for not only our existing permanent collections and archives, as well as the repatriated materials we're bringing back, and some of the materials that are being uncovered through archaeological excavations that Angie leads, and then also serving as a community hub where our community can come together to celebrate, share meals, showcase their arts and crafts, as well as those of our Alaska Native brothers and sisters, and then honoring our veterans. Now that I've gone through all of that history, I wanted to pass it over to Angie, and she is going to tell you a little bit more about this particular exhibit that we created. As I'd mentioned, we were finding creative ways to do a lot of our museum programming and outreach to the public, and we've done that through our partnerships. So here at the museum right now is our first community curated exhibit, Tsutsatne, honoring our ancestors, which has been on display since midsummer. And Angie's going to provide some more insights and then also talk about her family and the place that we live.
Good morning. Again, my name is Angela Wade. I'm a tribal citizen of Chickaloon Village. We're Atna Dene people. We historically have been a lot of different places. My great-great-grandparents were traders, so they traveled a lot throughout the area from the Canadian border into Cook Inlet. So it's a very wide range of areas. Here behind me, you can see this cool map. Actually, let me just point out this roof because it's making a lot of noise. If you hear weird background noise, we're hoping it's not going to rip off during the broadcast, but that would be exciting, right? So this valley is what we're experiencing right now with the wind. This is Tsiatotna, or Trail Comes Out River. In Palmer, Palmer is right down here, but the wind is just blowing so hard down this valley. But that's why we have the colony here, right? Because this wind brings so much topsoil. Our valley has a ton of topsoil. And so that's one of the aspects of Palmer and why everybody lives here. And we're one of the breadbaskets. But the trail comes out is also a nod that we came from back and forth from the Copper River down into Cook Inlet. The Knik Arm is right here, and that goes into the Pacific Ocean via the Cook Inlet. Our trail also comes down this way, down the Copper River into Prince William Sound. So that's kind of the whole triangle of our traditional area. It's a lot of moving and following things, and many, many trails run through these valleys and parallel these water bodies, and certainly that's what we find a lot in the archaeology. It's a struggle here because land privatization and the Homesteaders Act, and then the colony came and they got a lot of property, and so our land claims came after that, and so a lot of these properties that were traditional homelands are not any longer. So a lot of the archaeology and the history has been lost. So the museum that we're trying to develop is kind of combating that, in that it's a sign that we're still here, we're still working, our culture is still vibrant, and we're still learning. We're still learning and getting back some of that knowledge that we lost because colonization happened here in Alaska in the last 150 years, really. We have experienced outside people. And so that's a really short turnaround, but it's also a lot that happened. And there's been a lot of loss of information during that time. So that's what we do. And so we're trying to put our information all together and write it down, because that's what everybody says. Have you written this down? So that's what we're doing. Let's see, where should we start? Let's start out here on this one, right here. So and this is another example. There's a lot of words up here, but it says first there was Dene, right? So we've been in place somewhere around 10,000 years. And this is a picture of the river valley that we live on with all the traditional place names. Tsitaketna or Tsitaketess is grandmother's place hill, and it's where Moose Creek comes out of. Tsitaketna is the name of Moose Creek, which is where I live. When I was younger, they used to call me Moose Creek Angie. I'll answer to that. There's traditional place names on that map as well, and that's something that we feel very passionately about, that traditional place names are honored and talked about and revived. Let's see, traditions, worlds, and lifeways. You can see us practicing. Starts up here, our traditional fishing methods all the way down to right now. The cool thing about fisheries and Chickaloon is that we're working on putting the fish back as much as we possibly can. And we're trying to protect those water bodies, even though they don't belong to us, because that's the right thing to do. And as tribal people, that's our job. So we're actively working in fisheries, but also we're doing the other side of it, working on fish in kind of almost an art way with fish skin, to obviously consuming fish, but also completing the loop by putting them back. So we can talk about some of the things that happened during colonization. Here was boarding school, just like everybody else, but we had a lot of removal and a lot of loss. This was our the closest boarding school to us, which a lot of my family was sent to. That said, this boarding school is 40, 45 miles away from where we lived, and the kids would run away quite often and come back to Chickaloon, where we're from. And I can't imagine the amount of danger they might have experienced during that. So when I was learning about boarding schools, Selena and I spent a lot of time in the archives to the boarding schools with NABs, right, Selena? And we learned a lot about our own family. We found archives and records of our own family and a lot of the other people that surround us in these villages, and I was able to get that information out to them, which was really an amazing project. But it highlighted the boarding school situation and kind of removal, right? That's how they made the land safe here in Alaska, is they removed us either in sanatoriums or in boarding schools or jails. All those things is kind of how they cleared out the land. And the story we tell isn't the prettiest story. I tend to gauge my audience and who's there, and I'll base what I say on that, because some people are more sensitive and you kind of feel what they can take, because there's a lot here. We can move on to Christianized, Westernized, and civilized over here. Like I said, it's a lot. It's sensitive, but you know, we're spiritual people, and there's a lot of removal in the civilized, Westernized, and Christianized story of our people. Again, with the Keetoowah school, but a lot of those were run by the missions, a lot of the boarding schools, and so that's kind of where the institutionalization and the Christianity collide. This is a recognition of all of our clans, and down here is a wonderful map that we use a lot in explaining Alaska and who we are and how we are. So all the warm colors here are Dene colors. They're the interior people. And all the outside colors are Inuit and other people. So we can separate ourselves, even though we don't follow these lines so much. We can kind of tell the difference sort of in territories. That said, Palmer is an overlap territory. These hard lines are kind of a weird thing to use, and they're very much a colonial construct. And there are rules and protocols based on marriages and clans to where you could travel and what lands you could use. We have about, I think 12 different clans, but some of those clans are, to my knowledge, no longer represented. We have lost, some clans have gone silent as far as I know. I don't mean to offend anybody with that, so let me know if you're from some of these clans that we don't hear from much. There's probably six clans very well represented in the potlatches and things that happen, but this is talking about who we were, and clans are so important because it outlines your responsibilities in our communities for things that happen. It defines your role, and it defines how you interact with other people and where you can be. So let's see. This is my grandma, and this is why we're here. One of the things she always wanted us to do, this is the school she started, is to make the school into a cultural center and museum. And so we're still working on it. This is a school she started in 1991, was the first year. And she did it because she actually was asked to work at the prison with the Native prisoners because they wanted cultural activities. So she would go and do that, and she would come home at night. I was living with her at this time, and she would just ruminate. I could tell. She'd play cards and she'd whistle, and I could tell she was thinking. And eventually she started talking about how those guys just don't know where they're from and that they have no kind of rudder. And she knew she had to teach us who we were, because she saw that disconnection, like I talked about before, was hurting us and was giving us bad habits. Because really, in communities, it's just grief and it's loss, and things spiral out from there based on what we went through with colonization. And so my grandma, to combat that, started the school so that our kids would know who they were and know how to speak our language. And we have a pretty strong language component to this, as well as singing and dancing. And then we teach the kids about the planet and about the fisheries work we do, and we try to keep them engaged in the things that we do actively as a tribe as well. So my grandmother was born in 1922 in Chickaloon, and there's a really cool story to that. This last 4 years ago, in October, we were closing down field work. And it's always a sad part of the year, like, oh, we're almost done being outside. So we did one last trip up a road in Chickaloon that we don't go on because it's all private property. And the first guy went by in his truck as we were walking up this road, and he was kind of rude. And the second guy walked by, and we talked to him for a while, and he asked us what we were doing. We said we were looking for trails or cabins in the area, just to get a sense of what's out here. And he said, oh, I have some on my land. And so I asked him who he had, and it turns out it was my grandmother's grandparents' place. And then on top of that, right behind, on state land behind his property, was my great grandmother's cabin where my grandmother was born. So we found the house that my grandmother was born at. And it took us a while to get the permits, but we did an archaeological survey there, and it was really awesome. It tells the story of colonization, because my grandmother's father was a moonshiner and he was a gold miner. And the story says that he stole, and I heard this from an anthropologist working with our people, my great grandmother, and brought her. And that's why we stayed in Chickaloon, because the mine was active at that time. And so she ended up shooting him, and he passed there in that cabin. And one of the interesting things is that we also work with other museums like Anchorage Museum, and they're holding the boots for Anchorage, the boots that we found outside of the cabin that I think were left there because of what happened in the cabins, some traumatic stuff. But the other thing we found there is a divot out in front of that cabin. And my grandmother writes about that. She wrote a book. She writes about the divot in that cabin. I was born in a cabin with a divot out in front. So when we were doing the archaeological survey, we were like, well, might as well cut into that, see what's there. We poked a hole in the center, nothing. We poked a hole in the sidewall, and we found a column of lithics. Big column of lithics. Actually, I was tired of picking little rock flakes out of the ground after a while. But it went all the way back to 5,500 years ago, the carbon dates of the lithics that were found out in front of the cabin of my great grandmother's house. And so we work to tell the stories of that connection and how we're from place, because we say that we traveled so much, people discount the fact that we're actually from this place. But we know, archaeologically speaking, and from place names, that we were definitely from this place. And it's been such a blessing to work with the museums that are working to interpret the data from the people here anyway, and to be able to load them with like real stories and real scientific understanding of what happens here, and have that good relationship. So if they get tough questions or things like that, they can just reach out and ask us, which is what we really appreciate. I learned a long time ago from the museum's community that nobody can interpret people as well as the people themselves. So I appreciate so much this platform today, and thanks for coming. And the roof didn't blow off, so hey, if there's any questions. Jeanette.
Yeah, bonjour. Can you all hear me? Can I get a confirmation from you, Selena and Angie? Awesome, great. I love to see that. Miigwech, thank you both so much for all you shared with us today. You're both amazing storytellers, and it's awesome to see you again and again forming this relationship with us at the association. So my first kind of question is, I know that this exhibit is kind of a temporary exhibit, right? As you guys are preparing to have this wonderful new museum space that's going to be all yours. So how can folks come support Chickaloon Traditional Village throughout this process? And is there an ETA on when they might be able to visit the museum?
On you. So the museum's currently at Palmer Museum, and it'll actually only be up for a few more days, and then it'll kind of get switched over for installation over at the Wasilla Museum. So if you live in Alaska and are in the Mat-Su region, you can visit it starting February 3rd of 2026. However, we understand, because we do have a lot of tribal citizens that also do not live in the region nor Alaska, there's actually a virtual version of this exhibit on our cultural site, which is chickaloon.org. The great thing about the virtual version is it's not only all of the text and the narrative of this exhibit, but we also have additional historical photographs and documents on there, as well as interviews with tribal citizens, including Angie, addressing certain topics and themes that are dispersed throughout the exhibit. So there's a lot of different ways you can experience it. And we would love for you to visit the website and learn more. And it's super exciting. Plus, we actually have some landscape footage in those videos. So you can actually see our area a lot better.
It's stunning. I mean, I'm biased, but it's really beautiful.
Oh, awesome. That's so good to hear. And yeah, I've definitely been around your website and you guys have some amazing stuff going on there. It's really, really cool to check out. Yeah, that's all my questions for you. It's been such an honor to see you all, and I'm so glad that it worked out on your end. Wild that you guys had this windstorm going on, and yet everyone else over here is having the technical issues. But you guys did great. And I want to make sure that we highlight one of the many ways that our allies can really show support for the association with a very short ad break. Thank you.
A 10,000-mile ride across Turtle Island in just 2 weeks, the Hokahay Motorcycle Challenge raises awareness about the realities Native peoples face and inspires supporters to learn, engage, donate, and take action for justice.
Sio Nagad, I hope everyone can hear me okay. And now I'm going to do an intro for MOWA Band of Choctaw Indians. So this next stop takes us to Southwest Alabama, home of the MOWA Band of Choctaw Indians. The MOWA Choctaw Center stands as the cultural and educational heart of the community, a place where language, tradition, and identity are carried forward with pride. Through exhibitions, historical materials, hands-on learning, and cultural programming, the center creates a space for visitors and Native Nation citizens to explore the enduring legacy of the MOWA Choctaw. From craftsmanship and storytelling to history and homeland ties, the center demonstrates what it means for culture and to live every day. We're honored to welcome Executive Director Lily Steiner and Tribal Historian, Genealogist Peter Rivers, both citizens of the MOWA Band of Choctaw Indians, who help carry this important work and continue advancing opportunities for citizens and the public to connect with their history and each other. Lily, we turn it over to you guys.
Good afternoon. We really appreciate you guys having us today. I'm going to turn it over to Peter Rivers, and he will get started with our tour of our museum.
Thank you again for having us in this special event, and we are honored to be a part and share with you a little bit of our culture and a little bit of our history here at the MOWA Choctaw Indian Reservation. So we're just going to jump right into our history, and maybe we can cover quite a bit of information. But just to let you know, we're located in Southwest Alabama, near the Gulf Coast, Mobile, Washington County, which is the word for MOWA, Mobile, Washington County Band of Choctaw Indians. We are the descendants of the great Choctaw Nation, which once was here and still remain in this area. So we'll start with, in the early, first treaty that our ancestors signed was called the Treaty of Hoboken-Tupa. And Hoboken-Tupa was located approximately about 15 miles north of here in Washington County, which is present day called St. Stephen's, Alabama. At that time was one of our ancestors, one of our great leaders, Kayax and Chief Piamingo Homatak, was one of the leaders that tried to keep the people together and not be disenfranchised from their land. We lived in most of the part right on the Tombigbee River, and the Tombigbee River flows down into the Alabama and Tombigbee converge together, and which is called the cutoff. And in this area right here is where we stay. This is where we live. And right here, closer to Mobile Bay, that you see here. So once We use the river, the Tombigbee, for fishing, for a great deal of such as food, and it helped sustain our people. So in 1803, when the Treaty of Hoboken-Tuba was signed, we were sort of moved down a little bit, made our community a little bit smaller, so we came further down until 1830, whenever we signed the Treaty of Dancing Rabbit Creek. And Dancing Rabbit Creek, most of our people decided to move on, but there was a provision made for those that wanted to remain. We could stay here and live under our own laws and customs. And we have been recognized here from the Alabama Supreme Court since 1849 that granted us the right to stay and live under our own laws and customs. And the Supreme Court actually abolished the Creeks, Chickasaws, and Cherokees, but left our community intact. So that was one of the very important things in history that was very important to us. There are approximately 7,800 of us tribal members that live in on or around the reservation and of course live in other states. So those things that are very important for history, oral traditions, oral medicines, passed down how we treat our people, all our family storytellers about Nanaweha, where we came from out of the mound, some of our people, and then some say that we moved by moving from the west by following a pole. So those things were passed down, and one of the people that was so instrumental in sustaining our language, our songs, our culture was this lady right here, one of our great aunts, Aunt Creasy Reed, who's a medicine woman who took care of the sick. She was one of the spoke the Choctaw language fluently and was very instrumental in helping keep our people together. So our oral traditions has always been very important to us, and the way that we live our lives and communicate with, and we're trying to move around here because, and I do apologize for anything. You look here, this is some of our tribal dresses, some of our young ladies. This is what you see if you come to some of our social dances. We, along with other Choctaw tribes, we are the descendants of the Oklahanali, which was the six-town Choctaw. Our people were here, and they considered themselves six-town, the group of the Oklahanali Choctaw Indians. And this is with some of the dresses that they would wear. As you can see, the color, the apron, the diamond pattern that are on the dresses. These ladies, it's all done by hand, very important, that they participate in our social dancing. And I would like for, if we could get up here and just get a picture of some of our people at, if you see music and dance, and it tells our dances, the turkey dance, the quail dance, the duck dance, the turtle dance. All these dances are historical dances that we've been doing for so many years at our celebrations of our social dancing. If you'll see us, tribal dancers here, some of these are from maybe 40, 50 years ago. Stickball, which was very important with the Choctaw, and we still carry that on today with our youth. So we have a internet education department that keeps participating, the kids playing different tribal members. And as you know, one of the other things that was very important to us was the basket weaving. So some of our elders here was very good at weaving baskets and still practice the basket weaving today. But right here, I want you to look at one of our ancestors. This is Julie. She was a Choctaw woman, and she lived here, and she was very instrumental in helping to sustain us. And she's very important to us because this is after Civil War. It was 1830, so this is another 25, 30 years after the removal. And we were still here. She would go to Mobile, which is about 30 miles from here south. And she would take some of the ladies and they would go into the city and they would sell. If you notice, she has a basket on her back. And they would gather kindling, lighted wood, if you will, and they would put the wood and walk all the way down and take that and sell it, and they called it chumpa. And chumpa was where they would go from door to door to sell, and some of them, they would sell pelts, they would sell different things to help make money to help feed our people. And so she's very much honored here, and she was also one of the great basket weavers at that time. And so she's always honored, and we always like to recognize her and how important she is to us and how she helps sustain us. So we're going to follow through here, and this room I think is very interesting because what a lot of people don't know is about 6 miles from here, which is borders our reservation. Geronimo and a group of Apaches came and lived amongst us. They were at a Confederate fort. And if you look here, this is when they were in Alabama, and you'll see Geronimo, he was at the Mount Vernon Barracks, which was located on the old St. Stephen's Road, the old Buckentupel Road, and that's where they stayed because it was at one time a Confederate fort. It was an arsenal for the War of 1812. So it's been here for a while. So Geronimo and his people came and they stayed here with us. And if you look right here at this bench that Geronimo is sitting on, this is the bench right here. And it's still very much a part of our history and how we took in other tribal people and other Creeks, Cherokee from different areas, because during the War of 1812, a lot of them were trying to escape, and so they came down to as what we call the cutoff, and so you had other tribal people coming in to our neighborhood. This is a picture of Mount Vernon Barracks when it was built, when it was established in 1828. U.S. Army Air Force, and a few miles from the MOWA, Choctaw, 7 Red Fox Road. This is where our reservation is, on Red Fox Road. Our tribal headquarters, and actually the is on Red Fox Road. One of the things, as we come through the timeline, from the early 1920s and 30s, the land barons came in, and they used our people to help gather wood from the forest. So the timber industry became very important as another way to sustain us during the early 1920s, 30s, and up really actually until present day today. So we have had relationships with government since that time, from the time of Hobuck-and-Tupelo, which is 1803, Dixon Red Creek, 1830. The state of Alabama Supreme Court has reaffirmed that our laws and customs, even up until present day in 2022, and from the Supreme Court of Alabama. The early history, this is a picture of the Tom Higby River that we talk about, that our people traveled on, hunted, and maintained their livelihood. We're here because we know the French and Indian Wars were here, and then the British period from 1763 to 1775, the American Revolution, the Choctaw. One of the things that we want to include also is our great Keetoowah, who was the chief in this area, and he was one of the ones that was instrumental in negotiating with the different areas. And so this is, if we see Treaty of Hobuck-and-Tupelo, 1803, and much revered amongst our people, and she lived up until about the 1950s, I believe. So as you can see, During the time, on this timeline here, we have a lot of history, a lot of oral history, and also a lot of documentation. We have, this is one thing that is very important to us that I want you to see, and talks about our school. This is a photograph of the school that is in the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and it says Indian Schoolhouse on the old St. Stephen's Road, built in 1835, for Indians and by Indian labor. So in this school, we have Castle Diva Elementary School, which is just a mile or so now where that school is located, which is still an Indian school that is maintained for Indians here in Mobile County. Which we're going to talk about the intentions with Peter Cole, which is one of the early chiefs and leaders in our area that helped bring the settlements together again after the Civil War. So he was very important in helping us during the time of removal that went up until after the Civil War. And then we can come through here, and if you'll notice, and if you can see this is a picture here in Mobile County of a Choctaw man and woman, and it was by a Swedish photographer. And if you'll notice, the Choctaws wore a lot, here along the Gulf Coast, wore a lot of turbans. So the men, if you can see that, they wore turbans, and also there was not a lot of headdresses and stuff like that, but they did wear turbans. If you also notice, this one also has this lady has a patch on her back as well to carry champa into the city and to try to get money to sustain their livelihood. And then of course we come through here in the South, different place, different time. We experienced a different way from a lot of people that did not, other Indian tribes out west, but in the South we had a triracial during Jim Crow. You had the Indian schools, you had the African American schools, and you had the white schools. So our people were banded together until the 20s when the missionaries came in. The Southern Baptist and Methodist missionaries came in and started educating our people and sending them away to Indian colleges and schools and setting up schools here. So, and if you're looking, this shows about, this is a newspaper article here that was how they were, the last organized effort to expel Choctaw, Alabama was in 1854. So even as late as they talk about 50 Choctaw Indians left our city yesterday on the steamer Oregon for New Orleans on their way to the state of Arkansas. They displayed a great deal of feeling in bidding their countrymen farewell, and many a tear was seen trickling down the cheeks of the children of the forest on the occasion. Westward, the tribe of red men take their way, and this was in Mobile, Alabama, in the paper on the 24th in 1854. So as you can tell, there's a lot of history still here and very well documented through our timeline, because we try to take it at least every 10 to 15 years. The census roll of Choctaw families continued to live in Mississippi, Louisiana, and Alabama in 1856. So there's a lot of information about our people still. And then here, the early settlements of our ancestors, and these people still have, all our descendants are still here. Several major churches that are still here, the same cemeteries where our ancestors are buried, and we can go there, and there's some as early as 1805. And so that is over 200 years ago of history, and that we are so proud of. And then of course, through Civil War and Reconstruction, we come through here, and this shows about how some of the Choctaws actually fought on both sides of the war, actually. But these are still tribal members, and that treated Vincent Rabbit Creek Code. Remember, that's 1830. So then we're here and doing the Civil War in the Reconstruction in 1865. So we still have much. There's another display of some of like the kids that make a stick ball and some other pottery that have been donated. Other tribes, other reservations have been given to our people. The next room we're going to, this is a little bit here that we talked a bit earlier about the missionaries and in the 20s when they came into our reservation. If you'll see, these are tribal members that went to Indian colleges in Oklahoma. Some went out west, beginning in the late 40s and 1950s. So these are some of the different schools that, for example, they call Indian College in Muskogee, Oklahoma. We had close to 100 of our tribal members after the missionaries came and started focusing on education. Our people started wanting to go to college. And fortunately, we were very blessed that most of these people came back and taught in our schools. Some became and helped maintain and keep our community together in a cohesive environment and made sure that our culture was still carried on and we were very much a part of our community. So if we could look here, some of the early ones, this is early reading. You can see they have some of the early, all the way dating back to 1850, all the ones that all the way to present day who were preachers or teachers or whatever. Pictures of the old schools that the missionaries started back in the 1920s. And then also back here to another one here, which we were Indian School. This picture, the school was built in 1835, excuse me. But this photograph was taken in 1922. William Weaver donated 1 acre of land to keep the school going. This photo was found in the Library of Congress collection of historic American buildings and identified as the Weaver School or schoolhouse. Indian County Road 96, the old St. Stephen's Road in Mount Vernon, Alabama. So this is a photograph of the school. We have other ones as well. And back is old photographs back as far as the 1850s of our people. This was one of the second school that came in, the old Bird School, Bird Church. And it was a site, and then this building is no longer there, it burned, but the cemetery is there, and our ancestors are all buried there as well. And remember, we talked about how important the forest was to us and the trees, and how if you look at this room in here, you have that feel of a forest, and it's very calming. And because a lot of our people, they harvested timber, or they did turpentine, which became another source of income, especially in the 20s and 30s. And if you'll look here, this shows one of our tribal members. That's a pine tree, and it's cut, and they would gather the turpentine from the tree, and then they would put it in barrels and take it to a turpentine still, and they would process it and make medicines and those type of things. So, and this is showing how they would take ox and gather the wood and bring it down and try to sell to their neighbors or different people. If you'll notice here, this is one of our tribal members. She is this Miss Alice Eccles, and she's riding an ox, and they're pulling timber out of the woods here, and so that's what she was doing, working. So men and women during that time played a very important part in sustaining their family. All through here, again, other tribal members that we have over maybe close to 100 hours from back in the 80s of all these elders with stories that are being archived at the university here, and folk tales, legends, and stories, and songs, and all those type of things. Some of the older houses that we had here was, and I think maybe a few of them are still standing, but we were fortunate enough to be able to at least photograph those pictures and of those houses and churches and have them that we could talk about and teach our kids about even until today. And again, we talked about Aunt Creasy, who was one of the, this is another, the one that's dedicated to her, because even her, in her last days, her saying that she was she was a Choctaw speaker who shared her knowledge with her children, grandchildren, and her granddaughters and all stuff. So this one was taken in 1983 before she passed, and she was like close to like either 99 or 100. She was very old, and so she was very knowledgeable. And also, she would come and we would have Dr. Ken York, who was at Philadelphia, Mississippi at the time, who was a member of the Mississippi Choctaws. He would come and visit, and he would speak with her in the traditional Choctaw way, in the Choctaw stories and songs, and they would share certain information. And she was very knowledgeable and very rich in history and knew how to get, if you got sick, she knew how to get you better for food. Oh, and then over here is some of the foods that we have, because living on the Gulf Coast, you know, we had close to the rivers, we had a bountiful of food, shrimp, oysters, all of the other animals, squirrels, raccoons, fox, any type of meat, deer, all different types of food that we had to share. And we would, the Choctaw would always recognize because they were such great farmers. And a lot of times the Choctaw would have a farm here, and they would go also plant along the river, because they would use during the summer months, they would come in, but then we got fall or cooler, they would go on the river and they would plant their gardens or have the little houses down there at that time there to eat and have their food. So, and this is some of the foods, you know, like corn, of course, greens, succotash, all those things that they would make and, for their, we have lots of different types of vegetables and things that we were. The Choctaws, you know, we didn't follow the buffalo herd. We didn't live in teepees, but we were farmers, and we lived in had vast resources that were a certain way to grow certain products and things. And then we're gonna come in here, and this room is dedicated to our tribal leaders that have been so important to us. If you see here, you have the individual is Bushman Taha, and that was this is one of our chiefs, one of our contemporaries, who was chief in the 90s and early 2000s, I think. And this is Wilfred Longhair Taylor, another one, a chief. And then also it's paid homage to Tecumseh whenever he came down and tried to unite the Creeks and the Choctaws together. So that's one of our very important paintings that was done, that was donated to the tribe. And then this here talks about leadership, and leadership, which is a picture again. This is Chief Franklin Weaver, who was chief for 2 or 3 terms. And then this is again Longhair Taylor and Cleve Reed, who was also one of our chiefs, and also Dr. Bird, who was our chief, and he's been chief since 2015, and he is still elected tribal chief. So this room here is telling our story. And I would also like to share with you, this book right here was written by a historian who also wrote the history of Washington County, and she's published other books, but this book is called They Say the Wind is Red. And I encourage you to read it. It's the Alabama Choctaw, lost in their own land, and this was by Miss Jacqueline Maddie, and it's a great resource information if you want to learn more about Choctaws, and specifically the MOWA band of Choctaw Indians and their history and our culture. And so this book was written in like 1991 or 92. It's online and it's offered in most libraries throughout the country. And so this is a very important part here. This is also, if you look here, this is a photograph of the tribal complex here. This is the Eagle View Apartments, which is part of our housing development, the MOWA Choctaw Indian housing development, and we have two different locations. One is here, location is in Washington County, and those are homes and apartments we have for tribal members.
Hey, so we're getting ready to move on to the next museum, but I wanted to give you guys an opportunity. If there's anything you want to let us know about, like special hours or like anything you're going to do for Tribal Museum Day this coming week, definitely what would you like us to know?
Well, we're going to be, we're here Mondays and Tuesdays of next week, so we're doing different things that's going on for tours, people who visit the museum, and to share our culture and our history with our guests or people that come to visit. And you can also visit our website, which is
www.MOWABandofChoctawIndians.com. You can go under museum or you can go under culture.
Gotcha. And we're going to be flashing that here on the screen as well at the bottom. And if you check on our chat too, that's going to be flashing of how you can check out MOWA. Peter, Lily, thank you so much for your guys' time. It was so phenomenal to learn the history of you guys and how you guys are moving forward. And again, check them out if you can. And hang on tight, guys. We're going to do a quick ad and then we'll be right back.
Support Native voices and make an impact with every purchase. Visit Indian-Affairs.org to shop the association's online store featuring limited edition Native design t-shirts, long sleeve tees, crew necks, and hoodies in a variety of colors and sizes up to 4X. Every item you buy helps sustain vital programs that uplift Native nations and protect diverse Native cultures. Plus, celebrate Native artistry and advocacy. Shop today at Indian-Affairs.org and wear your values with pride.
Hi! We're so excited to be able to share our online store with you. You can find Native designed limited edition shirts, long sleeves, crew necks, or hoodies like this one. Did a costume change? It's like a cool bag. It's one of my favorite hoodies. It's so soft. It's been washed a lot. It still has really great color fastness. It's all created to uplift Native values and sustain the association's work. Our new Tribal Museums Day shirt just came out this morning. Includes 2 front designs and a powerful tribute on the back listing more than 160 tribal museums and cultural centers across Native country. If you'd like to browse or pick up a shirt, sweatshirt, or hoodie, you can visit our store anytime at Indian-Affairs.org. Every purchase makes an impact. It really, really does. And they make great Christmas gifts. I know my family out there who's probably watching, all of them got this for Christmas last year. So definitely go check us out. And I obviously have changed. I have a friend who's with me. Thank you, everyone who's stuck around with us to the very end through it all. We really appreciate all our viewers. And while we are shifting gears a little bit, we wanted to highlight a 4th space committed to cultural expression and community empowerment. I'm so honored to be joined by a dear friend, Jason Montgomery. He's a fellow artist and the proud owner of 50 Arrow Gallery, which is where we're currently located. Jason was the first person who really saw my work, my art, which you're seeing on screen, and gave me the chance to feature it in a gallery for the first time. And I know I'm not the only Native artist you've done that for.
You are not. Yeah, Hauka, Ola, hello everyone. Big shout out to everyone in Indian country today. And big shout out to everyone in Kumeyaay territory back home in San Diego. Hi, folks. So we are 50 Arrow Gallery. We are a Black, Indigenous, and other persons of color centered gallery space. We are dedicated to the equity and sovereignty of all of our artists. We operate a little differently than other galleries. We charge no gallery fees, nor do we require a gallery commission from any of our artists. So artists keep 100% of what they make. That is part of our fiscal equity policy. Along with that, we have an artist sovereignty policy, which we like to essentially give the space to artists who are doing a full exhibition and say, go nuts. We are dedicated to Native artists and Indigenous artists from all across the country and from all across Turtle Island. We've shown work from artists such as Nyana Lafon, Anthony Meltingtallow, Nate Begay, and we really believe that Native voices are at the center of the movement towards social justice and the movement towards social equity as a community, but as a movement towards Native sovereignty. You can't have a movement without these voices.
Right. Yeah. And it's something, you and I have had a lot of conversations about, how this sort of dichotomy between, learning how to deal with this massive issue of this ever present market that's both
Yes.
underground and very much above ground for stolen cultural heritage items, as well as fraudulent art.
Yeah.
And I am also the auction monitor for the association. And so I see this profoundly negative impact that the selling of stolen cultural heritage items has not just on Native nations, but the naive buyers themselves.
Yeah.
Who have an interest in Native made art, but maybe don't know how to identify it.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested in having this conversation here with our viewers and with you about how folks can better make it very intentional purchases and how to support and ensure they're supporting contemporary Native peoples and contemporary Native artists.
Yeah, and I think that the proliferation of the internet and of social media as a artist tool has really enabled the due diligence that is necessary from the consumer to ensure that they are dealing with actual Native artists or actual tribal representatives, and to ensure that the authenticity of the piece can be tracked back to the individual. And we, as a contemporary space, we don't deal in antiquities, partly because of the complexities around dealing with antiquities, but in part because we are dedicated to empowering and elevating contemporary Native artists. And even in that sphere, when you're dealing outside of the antiquities, you still have a responsibility as a consumer to ensure that you're properly vetting the artists that you're working with. And it is a complicated question. When we start talking about Native art with a big N, and those who are tribally affiliated, tribally represented, versus Indigenous artists who maybe are not tribally represented or tribally or tribal citizens, how do you distinguish? How do you determine? And how do you ensure that you are actually supporting the art and the artist that we as a community need supported, because it goes beyond just the morality of it. There are actual practical reasons to seek out individuals and to say, hey, how are you going to make money off of this? Like, what's your commission if you're working with a gallery? What are that gallery's policies around the Native Arts and Craft Act? Like, making sure you're asking those questions and really not being afraid to ask those questions. We have a lot of customers who come in, and because of how we do business, we connect them directly to the artist, but we still encourage them. Hey, do you have questions about their history, their ancestry? What does this piece particularly mean? Let's talk about it and have a conversation so that we can assuage those fears if you have them.
Yeah, that's great. And you mentioned the Native American Arts and Crafts Act a little bit. I know some of our viewers might be educated about what that is, but this was an immense act that was passed in 1990.
Yep.
Can you describe a little bit how your gallery navigates that?
So our gallery navigates, and I would say industry-wide, it starts with the relationship with the individual artist. If we are, let's say, marketing them as a native artist who is producing native wear, we do check for bona fides when it comes to tribal affiliation, particularly if you're representing a tribe or your work is in the greater sphere of that tribal artistic representation. Um, Beyond that, we work with the artist then to say, okay, well, what are you actually trying to do here, and why are you actually trying to do this? There's a great example, and I'm not going to throw out any names just because I don't want to complicate anyone's life, but there are artists who I know personally who are indigenous artists who are working in territories and practices that are outside of their indigenous heritage, with tribal permission, but we take it upon ourselves to ensure that that relationship is transparent and that relationship is, you know, put forth to the community and to our consumers in good faith and in good practice. You know, we keep an eye out for anything that it comes across our table as, hey, I'm a native inspired artist. And it's like, well, are you a native artist or not? Do you have permission from the tribal group that you're currently representing? Inspiration is one thing. When it crosses into appropriation, we put a hard stop on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. And I think that that's like, you know, one of the reasons why we wanted to include the gallery space as sort of the end cap, after following these lovely tours of these amazing museums across the country, is that contemporary art and Native nation history can be found everywhere.
Yeah.
And you can find ways to support it everywhere. So if you look at our tribal museums webpage at the association, you can find that map that will showcase where you can find and participate at these museums. We'll highlight it again at the end and multiple times. I'm sure you've seen it. But this piece of like, if you choose to collect Native made art, or want a unique gift from the diverse Native peoples whose lands we all reside on, we encourage you to support contemporary artists by visiting gift shops at each of these tribal museums, or by buying from Native artists themselves, by visiting galleries like 50 Arrow Gallery, where you can trust that your purchase will go entirely towards supporting their livelihoods and their culture. Contemporary Native art is also a really good investment.
Yes, it is.
There's been, you know, year after year, we're seeing these predictions of Indigenous contemporary art in the art market, and every year it's been going up.
Yeah.
We see that we're exceeding those expectations. So it's an incredibly good investment for art collectors to also purchase contemporary art, because it can only grow in value.
Yeah, and it's a great and diverse market as well. I mean, Native and Indigenous art covers everything from traditional craft all the way to contemporary impressionist, neo-impressionist work. It's a beautiful genre to explore as a collector, knowing that not only are you, if you're doing your due diligence and doing the proper work, you're supporting a Native artist directly, but you're also helping to perpetuate Native tradition forward in time and helping to really inform and be informed by contemporary Native voices and contemporary Native experience.
Yeah, like you saw those amazing baskets at all
Yeah.
those museums. Like we were talking while we were looking through, I think it was Ernestine talking to John Hare about those baskets, and then we also saw it at MOWA.
Oh yeah.
And they're like just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. And one of the pieces that I'm wearing right now actually comes from a Kumie weaver. She goes by different shade of red on TikTok and Instagram if you're looking for utilizing traditional basket weaving techniques to craft jewelry. And you know, she was lovely enough to create this for me. But that kind of outlet and having this ability to take traditional crafts and push them forward and develop, and to prove once again that we are a living breathing culture and a living breathing people, and for us to have that role as a facilitator is such an honor and such a privilege.
Yeah, and I love these kinds of wearable art as well. I mean, you know me, I'm doing research into traditional body modifications as well. And so we talk a lot about appropriation and body art as well as physical art or wearable art. And, you know, I think the key is if your money and your support is going towards Native people, to Native artists, and you have that relationship, you know, like, you know, that person that made that for you, that designed that for you. Not only is that, you know, you're making an ethical purchase, but you also are forming a relationship that's inseparable.
Yeah.
Because then those pieces come home with you and they have their own life.
Yeah.
And we see that through the museums as well, the pieces that they hold, the stories that those belongings hold. And, you know, the elders that are telling these stories. And we're talking about how MOWA, it feels like he couldn't take a breath. He was like just wanting to get the story out. And it was so beautiful to have that sort of story throughout all the technical difficulties.
Well, it's funny, and we smudged in between the sections, trying to make sure the technology had good prayers. So.
Yep. There's lots of good medicines behind the scenes. So we talked about how it's a good investment. It's also less of a liability to buy contemporary Native art than it is to buy cultural items, specifically items that have no artist history or known consent at the time of taking. And so when I'm doing my auction monitoring, for example, what we tend to look for that's pretty suspicious is those things that are just listed with a title. They don't have where they came from, who they came from, or an artist signature. If you can't find those things, or also maybe just try to find a contemporary artist or a tribal museum that has these relationships with contemporary artists in their communities, then you know your money's actually going to a good place. And that way, you know, like you're saying, you're supporting the living, breathing Native people who work hard every day to share their indigenous ingenuity with others. And it's not easy. Making money as an artist is incredibly difficult.
Oh, yes.
Especially when the economy like it is now is in the drain. Like, it's really difficult to get people to buy art. And so this time of year, make sure you're going out and spending your Christmas money on gifts that support Native people as well. I know we'll all appreciate it. And your support matters. And so when you invest in genuine Native art, you're helping sustain culture, community, and creative sovereignty long after today's event ends. Again, if you want to support our Native Nations museums, please follow all the links. You can also follow 50 Arrow Gallery on their website. If you're looking to buy from Native artists like myself, as well as the other amazing, amazing artists that I am privileged to call kin and be in good relationship with, you can buy on the Flat Files page, which is where you can buy prints, right?
Yes, and we'll have prints of your work available within the next week on the Flat File page. So you can go to our Flat File page and you can see we represent about 20 artists at any given time. And those works are up for purchase, and 100% of the proceeds from that go directly to the artist. Again, we believe in the fiscal equity that comes with 100% support.
And I so appreciate that. And you can also support 50 Arrow Gallery and all their work they're doing. They got some great merch too. I don't have that sweatshirt, but you do. It's also really, really soft and really cozy. 10 out of 10 recommend. And so now this is like, you know, buy Native art. Truly one of the best holiday gifts you could give anybody, at least in my opinion, and I'm probably a little biased. And now we're going to move on into our close.
Awesome.
So you're welcome to hang around for the close or pitter patter around the gallery. I might walk around the gallery.
I'm gonna walk around the gallery.
Awesome. So we're coming to a close. Hi, Trista. Long time no see.
No, one thing we did not do is smudge before we started this. So I think that's what it was. That's what we
That's what it was. I think that's what it was for sure.
Because your guys' segment was great. It was phenomenal. Now I want to check out, 50 Art Gallery as well too. I want that hoodie now too. And you know what? I'm wearing an association shirt right now too. So yes, I know what my family is getting this Christmas. So
that's what I did. I bought like a whole grab bag of our merch, and then everyone got to choose what shirt they got. Yeah, it was great.
Honestly, that's very, very smart. But everything that you touched on, I definitely just want to emphasize that Tribal Museums Day is just more than a celebration. It's a call to action. Visit more tribal museums locally or during your future travels. Shop gift shops. Many support Native artists directly, as John Hare Cultural Center and Ernestine emphasized, like, we have Keetoowah artists that are making baskets, ribbon skirts, and corn husk dolls are in there. Tons of beaded jewelry, things like that. And you can check them out on their website too and on Facebook. Donate, 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 donate. I know it's the season of giving, so definitely consider donating to tribal museums. Purchase memberships and attend programs. Volunteer your time too. If you don't have any money to give, you can always volunteer. I love the idea of that concept. So volunteer your time and help expand their impact. And if you hold Native culture heritage items, please consider returning them to their rightful homes. I can't emphasize that enough. I don't know if you've read the book Warrior Girl and Earth, but it definitely highlights that. And I was like, this is definitely something that needs to be talked about more. And don't forget to tune in on Monday for Native American Calling at 1 p.m. Eastern, where we are going to be discussing about tribal museums. And Kay, I'll let you, get us towards the end, towards the finish line. Kind of sad it's ending since we're doing so good now. So
I know. I don't want to go now that it's actually working.
Right.
Yeah, so today we also invite you to support the association. I'm so proud of this team. You guys can't imagine how hectic it was behind the scenes for the first little bit of this, but we made it work. We are here. So the association partners with tribal museums. We support repatriation, we provide technical assistance, and we advance policy that strengthens cultural sovereignty nationwide. Your donation directly fuels this work. So helping bring ancestors home, supporting cultural heritage programs, and building a stronger future for the next generations. Your support makes our work possible. If you were inspired today, we ask you to give in whatever way feels meaningful to you. As Trista said, it can be whatever form it is, whether it's your time, your money, whatever it is. We always support buying gifts to support us as well, to, the merch. It's all good. You can donate at indian-affairs.org, become a member, or support any of our programs directly. Truly, because of all the work that, folks have given to the association, we were able to make this possible. And I want to make sure that we're thanking all the people behind the scenes. We have Shannon O'Loughlin, who's like our magician behind the curtain, making everything work. And then Cece Hovey, who's been, a machine when it comes to communications planning and making sure everything is going to go straight to plan. And then, of course, technology has different ideas. I also want to give a big thank you to the outreach specialists who, put in all the time and effort into calling every single tribal museum and cultural center across Native country. We made sure that we were doing the best we absolutely could to contact each museum individually so we can form that relationship and continue to build on relationships we already had. So big, big thank you to our outreach specialists who made that possible too.
Awesome. Well, as we come to a close, many wados, everyone for joining us today. Even though through all the chaos that was happening behind the scenes, it was so good to do this for the 4th annual Tribal Museums Day. And so happy to be here, Kay. You did great as well. So happy to call you a friend, a coworker, and a phenomenal co-host. And thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, Igwian, Chimigwet, heartfelt thanks, and thanks to you, Trista. We did it, we pulled it through, and we'll catch you all next year or at any of our other events, like our repatriation conference that's coming up in February. Registration opens up next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.